how do you buy real estate that generates passive income? Passive being the operative word. I always talk about incomes. There's different types of income. Active income, which is managing an Airbnb or doing a flip or something like that, or actually buying real estate that's managed by other people that spits off positive cash flow. So you are getting paid for doing nothing, which is what Mitch does all day long. He does nothing. He stares at the wall and eats ho-hos. And
I don't know you know what a ho-ho is. That must be a thing from the 70s.
You know what a ho-ho is.
So
don't you?
Let's talk about what time freedom is, because time freedom, it's something that I'm very passionate about. I've been passionate about time freedom for years, and I've had people say that, like, oh, what? So you do nothing? Like, I can't imagine doing nothing, but that's not what it's about. Time freedom is about like owning your life. It's about freedom. It's about living life on your terms. It's choices. Yeah. It's not doing nothing. It's just being in control of how you spend your time, where you spend your time, what you spend your time doing, who you spend your time with.
Well, this is different than being rich, though. You know, like when I was growing up and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I ran across, in fact, there was this one specific experience. I was at a friend's, I think it was his uncle or something. And it was like, this guy was so rich, right? He had this beautiful home and the pool and the car and the motorcycle in the garage, all these things. And he was rich, but I realized, and after talking to him, he goes, look, I can't even use it. I don't use my pool, man. I drive to work every day. I'm in traffic for 2 hours. And I realized that rich is different than being free. It's different than having wealth that spits off cash flow and being free. And so at first for me, I was like, I want to be rich. Now I'm like, okay, got it. Like true wealth, true happiness, I think is time freedom, and cash flow can provide that. Time freedom for me, at least in my tiny little brain, is like the first domino to everything else. Like when you open the door to time freedom, you get to have adventure. You get to be there for a mom or a dad or somebody in your family who's sick. You get there to, you get to drop your kids to school. You get to like experience the joys of life that a lot of people don't get to because they're driving to their 9 to 5 or they're clocking in at home or whatever that is. Like that first domino or that first door you open, I think it's just nothing but opportunity for a genuinely good life.
Well, you say this all the time, Mitch. It's disconnecting and putting hours into a system to get dollars back out of it. My surgeon friend, who's smarter than all three of us put together, again, he's connecting hour input to dollars. And we hang out, and he's also grappling with time freedom because, he gets paid on the number of surgeries he does, for example. And I say time freedom isn't necessarily about making as much money as you can and buying nice houses and Lamborghinis. It's like we mentioned earlier, it's freedom. It's the freedom of choice. It's the freedom to get up and do what you want to do, set your own schedule, hang out with your kids. If life demands your time, like you mentioning a sick parent, you can spend time with that sick parent. You can take advantage of opportunities that come up to go on a cool trip with people. And I think like the three of us, at least for me, I lose sight of that because this has been my life for so long. But when you talk to people and you throw out an idea, hey, let's go on this trip or let's do that. Okay, well, I need to put in time and I need to submit time off 4 months ahead.
You forget what you have, Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you, time freedom has been on the forefront of my journey for a very long time. I mean, it's something that's driven me for a lot of years. And a lot of that came from that initial, I read all the Rich Dad books, and I know Mitch started talking before we were recording about the term financial freedom and how that was thrown around. And that was originally where my mind was. I read all the Rich Dad books and I'm like, financial freedom. I want to get rich. I want to get wealthy. I want to retire young. And it was very money driven. At least I thought it was money driven. But I remember very distinctly, I was on a walk and I'm thinking about and questioning myself, why is it that building wealth, why is it that financial freedom is so important to me? It really was. It was all I talked about for a couple of years. It was time freedom, or not time freedom, sorry, financial freedom. Real estate's going to give me financial freedom. I'm going to be wealthy, all these things. But I'm on this walk one day and I remember asking myself in my mind, why is financial freedom important to me? What is it that attracts me to financial freedom? Why do I just feel this innate desire to build wealth and be financially free? And I realized, I had this realization, it was time freedom. So it was shortly after coming back from the Iraq war where I had someone telling me what to do every minute of the day and thinking do I get a job? I'm like, I don't want a fucking job. I don't want a 9 to 5. I don't want someone telling me what to do. I don't want to have to clock in and clock out. I want to be my own boss. And more importantly than financial freedom, I want to own my time. We started having kids and I wanted to be able to raise my own kids. I wanted to be able to go to their, music events and sporting events. And I wanted to be able to travel. I wanted to be able to spend time with my wife. I really wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, whenever I wanted to do it, wherever I wanted to do it. And that became kind of the guiding force of me building wealth and financial freedom. And kind of that North Star was like time freedom. And then I was able to make a lot of decisions based on how does this affect my time? And, I think in those early years, it was very much like, what do I get to do? I get to spend all this time with my family. I got to go travel. I got to do all this cool stuff. But then to Mitch's point earlier, like when my dad got sick and before he passed away, I got to spend every single day with him, and not have to decide between going to work and seeing my dad. And that was like that next level of time freedom for me. First, it was very much go do cool shit, spend all this time with my family. And then it was like, wow, my dad, I could actually spend every moment with my dad before he passes. Same thing when my wife's stepdad was getting sick and when her mom got sick. It's like, time freedom is more important than we could probably, spend talking about in the next 20, 30 minutes on this show.
Well, we talked about the Godfather, Robert Kiyosaki, who kind of introduced this concept. And I think we all started this journey of building businesses and real estate because we realized he brings up an interesting point. He talks about, would you rather have, millions in the bank, $1 million in the bank, $2 million in the bank, or would you rather have cash flow that comes in every month, limitless, that comes in every single month for the rest of your life? And he talks about that's true freedom. That's true financial freedom versus wealth, I guess. And it just depends on how you define that. And I will tell you, like, if I had a choice of having millions in the bank but then there's a finite end to that. Let's say you can't deploy that for passive income or interest income or whatever the case is. I would much rather have a check coming in every single month that I know is coming in that I can count on and then I can live my life. And I think, Gabe reached quote unquote financial freedom or time freedom or whatever we're defining as this when I think you bought those 2 fourplexes together and you did it with no money down. So you created $1,500 a month in positive cash flow, which actually replaced your $1,200 a month day job. So
I was just going to ask if you guys knew, I didn't know if you guys knew this, but I actually replaced a 30-hour a week minimum wage. I'm just kidding. I know you guys know the story because I've said it 1,000 times.
Oh no!
Wait.
Did you know that I was working? I
love the story though.
A 30-hour a week minimum wage job, and I was bringing home less than $1,500 a month. It was like 13 something because minimum wage wasn't a lot back then, and it's 30 hours a week, and we had young kids at home. So like that was my oh shit moment of like, how do I replace this income? And I had already owned 3 properties. They were spitting off a couple $100s a month of cash flow. And then I bought these 2 duplexes. I make it sound so easy. I bought these 2 duplexes. I also looked at deals every night after that 30-hour week minimum wage job, mostly on Craigslist, but also on the MLS, everywhere I could, and after a year of looking and 200 conversations, I did buy 4 more units, 2 duplexes side by side, and the cash flow from those four units and the other 3 properties, yes, it replaced my income. It replaced that 30-hour week minimum wage job. And I became financially free when I only was bringing home $1,500 a month of cash flow from my real estate, but it gave me time. And that was like that big aha of like, I have my time. So I had the opportunity. Do I keep the job and own the real estate and double the amount of money I bring home, or leave the job and keep the real estate and go put more deals together? I left that job, never went back to work because I valued my time. And I knew that if I had those next couple of years to go put more deals together, I could create more cash flow by purchasing more real estate and increasing my cash flow with every single one of those purchases. But it was the time freedom that allowed me the energy to go out and put those deals.
Opened up those doors. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly like, not exactly my story, but like I went from like wanting to be rich to wanting to get my time back. And then, now today, looking back, and I talk to my kids about this all the time, I'm like, look, maybe we got to stop asking our kids what they want to do and ask them what their life wants to be like. Because I mean, when I grew up, it was always like, what do you want to be? Well, I want to be a pilot, or I want to be whatever, an attorney, or I want to be whatever. And I think a lot of people, whether you're listening to this or your kids are growing up and they're going to soon be making those decisions, we're stuck on this thing. We're like, well, what do we want to be? And then we take the life it gives us. So if you want to be a teacher, you take the life it gives you. You got this much time off, you got this much pay, you have this much flexibility, freedom, whatever that is, or an attorney or accountant or whatever. I think the script in a lot of people and a lot of young people today is being flipped, where they're saying, look, what do I want my life to look like? Okay, I want it to be like I can go on vacation anytime. I can be there for 6 parents. I can spend time getting in shape and being healthy. I can be there for my kiddos. And then what do you build behind that? And for us, I mean, we've all built real estate behind that to fuel that. I don't think any of us love real estate for just real estate. We love it for the benefits that it gives us, for the life it gives us. So it's an interesting...
I knew real estate would be my path to financial freedom. Like everything I read, everything I learned, like I wasn't going to go be that surgeon that Travis is talking about. I wasn't going to be some salary earner. I knew that I wanted to be financially free. And more importantly, I wanted that time freedom. And I believe full-heartedly that real estate would be that path. And Mitch, I love that you ask your kids, what do you want your life to look like? I think more parents need to ask their kids, or other people's kids for that matter, what do you want your life to look like? And it actually makes me think of that famous John Lennon story of his teacher asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be happy. And his teacher said, I don't think you understand the assignment. And he said, I don't think you understand life. And
oh man, I just got chills. I love that. It's so good.
Yeah. And I think you asking your kids a similar question, like, what do you want your life to look like? And I don't think only for kids, adults should be asking themselves. Yeah, I don't care if you're 30, 40, 50 years old. You should be asking yourself, what do you want your life to look like? And then are the things that you're doing today, are those activities that you're engaged in, is that creating that life that you want and desire, or is that actually taking you farther away from that life that you want?
Well, we call it, for those of you that don't know much about the 0 to 100 tribe, we call it R1, or retirement number 1. And that is usually the first step, generating enough passive income to cover your living or lifestyle expenses, or maybe just your living expenses. But you free up 40 to 50 hours a week back. You get that time back. And from there, you can be philanthropic. You can do whatever you want, or you can, continue to buy real estate and add more passive income. And as you were talking about this earlier about not going back to a job, Gabe, and you decided just to quit altogether. I love the fact that you said I could keep buying real estate and keep adding passive income, because you now control your life. I think that maybe that's really what it comes down to. It puts you in the driver's seat as opposed to your boss or the corporation you're working for in the driver's seat. And you can give yourself a raise. You're like, okay, I've got $1,500 a month in passive income. Sweet. Well, I'm going to go give myself a raise. I want to make $3,000 a month in passive income, and then $4,500 a month in passive income. And for those of you that are listening, and for those that are trolls in their mom's basement that are listening and commenting saying, must be nice. Oh, just go buy passive income. That's easy. Well, it's not easy. I mean, like Gabe said, you went to your job, your minimum wage job, and then you got off work and you worked. Like, people also think that it just magically happens. You got to work your ass off. You got to understand the dynamics, the fundamentals.
Choose your fucking hard. Like, yeah, there's going to be hard days in real estate. Like,
100%.
Especially starting out.
No, it's butterflies and bunny rabbits every day. What are you talking about?
But working at 9 to 5 until you're 7 years old, especially if it's a job you hate. And look, some people love their job and they're fortunate to find a job they're passionate about. And some people aren't entrepreneurs. That's fine. Some people aren't going to invest in real estate. That's fine. But what bothers me so much, if someone hates their job, like they truly hate what they're doing, but they're willing to be a slave to that job, and they're willing to work from their whole life every day, give up their entire day, their week, most of their life until they're too old to enjoy life and retire and die. Like, that's fucking hard too. So choose your hard.
100%. It's hard either way. And I think, I heard this guy the other day, I don't know if it was podcast or video or what, but he was saying, look, like, there's a reason we're unhappy. Most of us are unhappy. You're trading a finite resource, your time. Every day you're trading your time, right? If you're W-2, for example, you're trading it for dollars, and dollars represent a specific value in our society, depending on the moment. They're also eroding. And then you trade your dollars for material, and material depreciates. And when you when you take out the dollars and you just look at it, what you're doing is you're trading your time for material. Material ends up in the landfill, and all of your time, that's exactly where it's fucking going. And so how can you be happy in a life where you're giving away the one precious thing we have, which is time? And it is finite. Unfortunately, we all do die at some point. Some live longer than others. But the point is, how can you be happy if you're giving that away and it's ending up in the landfill? And I think that's part of the message we're trying to, preach or talk about, or we want to capture people and really get them to understand there's a different way to do that. There's a different way you can spend some time working, a finite amount of time working and training your hours, but you can turn that into assets that then pay you forever. And you disconnect that, hey, I'm going to trade my time for material. I'm not going to trade my time to build somebody else's castle. But when that guy said that, I was like, oh shit, that's just so pointed. And it's it really affects you, I think.
But that's what we're taught. We're taught that. We're taught get a job, trade your hours, get a bigger house. Your house, then it costs more money per month. Mitch, you talk about this all the time, and I love this. I hate saying that you say things that are intelligent and noteworthy, but I have to admit,
all the time, every day.
But when you say I just added, even with our elites, we're we're going to add $5,000 a month in income or $2,000 a month in income. You always equate that to, you just bought X amount of months per month, or X amount of days. X amount of days of freedom. So you take a 365-day year and you're like, dude, you just bought 100 days of freedom per year, every year for the rest of your life. Something else people forget too, and we talk about this when we go through sort of portfolio reviews with our elites and our elite mastermind. People will go, okay, yeah, maybe I'm a dentist and I make $500,000 a year. And you're like, okay. And so that dentist is thinking I need to replace $500,000 a year to maintain my life. And you're like, actually, no, because real estate is tax efficient, right? So you can say, well, you're giving half of that to the government in one way or another: property taxes, federal taxes, state taxes, municipal taxes. I think when you look at it, what does the average American work? How many months does the average American work per year for the federal government? It's 3 months a year, 4 months a year, depending on your
January to March, you're working for the government. You're a government worker.
Think of that.
But I also think this is why you go back to that question that Mitch asks his kids, what do you want your life to look like? Because it's also real estate investors that I see get this wrong. I'm not holding real estate investors on this pedestal like they don't fuck it up too, because I've watched a lot of investors. I have some close friends, they're investors, and they say yes to all these things that don't actually align with the life they want. So the clearer you are on the life you want, the clearer you are on what you want your life to look like, it's easier to say yes to those things that align and say no to the things that don't. I chose not to start a property management company. I chose not to get a real estate license or start a brokerage because it actually would take me farther away. At least I believed it would take me farther away from the life that I actually want. And I do watch real estate investors, some very experienced investors, they say yes to all these things. Or the reason they got into real estate or the reason they left their W-2 job was to actually be financially free. And what they really wanted, because I've had people tell me this, I want to go spend more time traveling, more time with my family, more time with my kids. And then they go take on 5 fucking things that take them farther away.
Flips and developments
they're working 4 times more than they did their W-2. So they actually have less time freedom. And 10 years later, 20 years later, they've just spent all their time doing these things that took them farther away from the whole reason they got into real estate in the first place.
But the truth is there's a very, very small percentage of real estate investors who are actually aligned and turning their investment activity into time. It's very few. And I think that's the whole, misconception is that people are like, oh, you get into real estate to get your time back. Well, kind of. There's a right way to do it. There's a very narrow path, and it's a very small percentage. Most people are flipping properties, they're wholesaling, they're developing, they're land banking, they're speculating, they're buying single family. They're doing all these things, and they're not buying long-term cash flow real estate and using it in a tax advantage way to create a lifestyle that they want. They're not nailing it. They're not hitting it. And it's a small percentage. It's maybe a couple percentage.
Well, I don't know why you said property management. I don't know why you said property management isn't time freedom. I mean, managing properties is total time freedom, right? Taking calls all hours of the day.
Yeah, you can do it.
Fixing toilets. And we're talking people that might be listening well, no, I've got a friend who bought a rental house and he's constantly running applications, dealing with unruly tenants, et cetera. But no, real estate is the most leverageable asset on earth. You can leverage other people's time and money, whether money being through bank debt and or people investing with you, like equity partners. And then you can leverage property managers and insurance brokers and asset managers. You can put a team together that you're not paying W-2 wages to. They make a living based on success. And then you can experience time freedom. But again, a lot of people that would be listening to this go, well, how do you do that, right? How do you do that? And for those of you that are listening, understand, none of us, well, Gabe he's a trust fund baby. That's why he was working a minimum wage job, cleaning feces off the walls and stuff like that. Because yeah. But nobody here had anything to start with. But I think what it comes down to is you got to learn, it's called fast education. You got to understand the fundamentals. To Mitch's point, you have to truly understand how to buy and hold real estate that produces passive income and cash flow, because that is the narrow road to understand those fundamentals. Buying a single family house that you hope for appreciation, or a flip, or developing land, that isn't time freedom. It's a very specific framework, in my mind, to building a true passive income stream. So the question is, for people that are listening, and this is a question for you guys, how do you do that? How do you go from nothing with no money in the bank? Because Gabe didn't have a bunch of money in the bank. None of us had any money in the bank. But how do you connect the dots? How do you connect the pieces together to generate passive income? And then the follow-on question is, where are we at in the economic cycle right now that allows people to do that? Because a lot of people that are listening, like, well, yeah, but Gabe, you invested in 2012, it's 2025. No, right. Yeah, spoiler alert, it doesn't matter. You can buy cash flow real estate anytime in the market cycle.
I have a few thoughts on this. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is you have to want it. I mean, we are fortunate to be around a lot of successful people, a lot of real estate investors, a lot of successful business owners, and one thing that a lot of these men and women have in common, almost all of them started from little to nothing. But they all started with the desire to live a bigger life and a better life, not only financially, but they just wanted more. It all started with that desire. They wanted to build something. They wanted to create a life. And for a lot of those folks, real estate was that path. So I do believe mindset's a big piece. I think you have to have that desire. And then you have to have that, discipline and determination to do the things it takes to get there. And that can be, building relationships. That can be looking at properties. That can be, offering deals. And here's the thing. I go back to those first few years when that year I replaced my minimum wage job. I was on Craigslist, and it wasn't like it was all day. It was like an hour a night. But it was consistent, and it was consistent conversations and calls with potential sellers. And so it took a year, but that year was worth it. It's not like I spent 10 hours a day for a year doing it. I came home and spent maybe an hour looking on Craigslist at all the new seller financing, owner opportunities. 99% of those opportunities didn't make sense for me. They wanted a bunch of money down. The numbers didn't make sense. But that year worth of effort, when it came time that a deal was in front of me, and it made sense. And I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? This thing cash flows like almost exactly what I'm making at my job. Am I missing something? And a little bit of that nervous feeling, but excited feeling. I'm like, I need to buy this fucking property. This is life changing. I have nothing to lose, right? And so it's it started with that desire. Then I took actions towards what it is that I wanted. And then when the opportunity presented itself, I was ready. I was ready to take down that deal. And that deal was life-changing because yes, it replaced the minimum wage job, but I also had the forefront in my brain. My mind was, I wanted time freedom. So that's why I chose not to go back to work. So now I had the properties and I had the time to go put more deals together. So that's why I was able to keep picking up properties in 09, 10, 11, 12, 13 and continuous, because I didn't go look at one property. I didn't go make one offer. I had hundreds of conversations. I looked at hundreds of properties. I wrote hundreds of offers, and it didn't take all day. It was consistent effort and action every day, compounded over time.
Which builds a muscle, by the way. If you're constantly underwriting deals, you're learning from people around you in a network, you're reading books, you're listening to podcasts, and you're making deals, and you're underwriting deals. Yeah, maybe 99 out of 100 deals don't make sense, but you're gaining so much experience and understanding the nuances and truly understanding income minus expenses minus debt service equals cash flow. You truly understand that. So when you do see that deal, like you said, Gabe, for a year, you were underwriting these deals. Once it crossed your desk, you're like, oh man, this is it. This is life-changing. But had you seen that deal when you first started without the right network, without the right education, and without all the reps, would you have spotted that deal? Would you?
It's reps, and it's bullshit that you can't find that today. I have a friend that was just in contract on a small multifamily property for 2% down in 2025. 2% down.
Yeah, they're still out there. I think the most rare attribute of a human, I think I've said this before, is consistent action over time. And I've seen that in my life. I've worked on myself because I realize like we get distracted and we chase butterflies or there's something else is shiny. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more and more consistent. And in parallel with that, I've seen my success grow. The thing is we could say on this video, we could tell you everything to do. 99% of you won't do it. You'll click on the right-hand side because there's another cool video to catch your attention and give you a dopamine rush. But what gets you to results is going through the woods of pain, or that time of pain, and getting over that wall. That pain that Gabe just talked about, that's a full year. And there's a lot of belief involved too, that is going to actually pan out when you're rejected for a full year. Like it's not an easy thing. But if you have the desire and you have the belief and you have consistent action over time, you will be part of the 1%. That is the difference. The 1% is not the smartest people in the world.
But get in the room with the 1%. Get in the room with the 1%.
You gotta be in the room, because that's how you actually develop that context. But like the smartest or the most successful people in the world are not always the smartest people. It's the people that are consistent over time. And I truly believe that. I meet a lot of entrepreneurs that are very successful, and I feel like they're just average as I am, but they're extremely consistent. And that attribute is really, really rare.
Well, let's talk about now. People are listening to this, because if you have a narrative in your brain that you can't make it happen, you will look for every data point that tells you it can't happen. And we see that even in our comments. People like I said, must be nice, or that, 2012, it's 2025. We're in a high interest rate environment. We're coming out of a run up where property values are generally way higher than people can fathom. So what do you do? We got the feds coming up. We're recording this at the very end of August. We're looking at hopefully a rate cut with the feds, the overnight rate cut. Like, how can somebody, let's talk about some quick framework before we conclude, because people are like, okay, great. Yeah, I want it. What now? How would you guys approach building a cash flow real estate portfolio now? What would you do first? What would you do second? Like, what does that look like? Because a lot of people listening to this go, well, I don't have a bunch of cash sitting in the bank. So not for me. I'm going to go to that cat video now because that doesn't work. Or, I wasn't born into a rich family. Not for me, because you're looking at data points to support your narrative. But if you're like, I know it can happen. I'm not sure how, but I know I can get there. What do you do? What do you do in 2025, August of 2025? To put you on a 5-year journey for time freedom through real estate?
I used to tell everyone to go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and then call me back. And like 1% of the people would actually read and call me back. Now I tell them to go read our zero to 100 book and then call me back. But yeah, I think get around, you have to get around people. Like the first thing I tell everyone today, like honestly, I was like, go tell everybody what you want to do. I truly believe like when you speak that into the world, like I had nobody in my life, in my world, that was involved in real estate business and what have you. But as soon as I started speaking about it, because I was so excited about it and so passionate about it, that the more I talked about real estate, it attracted people into my life that wanted to be around real estate, who were around real estate, who were in business. And I realized all these people started coming to my life that I never knew before that were involved in some aspect of real estate investing. And so I do believe you have to tell everybody what you're looking for, whether that's, hey, I'm looking for these types of properties in these areas, or, hey, I'm going to start investing in real estate. It's amazing how many people I've told that to, and then they go out and they go, oh my gosh, I had no idea my neighbor that I've known for 10 years, they own 20 rental units. I have no idea that this guy that I worked with owns, 5 rental properties. It's like, but you have to speak that, and then you just keep building your network. Get in the room with the right people. I mean, that will compress timeframes like no other. When you get around people that are doing the thing that you want to do, that's maybe 1, 2, 3, 10 steps ahead of you, like you can learn a lot from those people without having to bang your head against the wall for a year.
I totally agree. I think if I was sitting, if I'm watching this video and I don't have any real estate and I want to get involved, or maybe I'm a high paid executive and I'm going, maybe this is the switch I want to make. I think that for me, I go to knowledge and network. And I know you touched on that, Gabe. you got to understand the language. You got to understand how to underwrite properties. What are you even looking for? What is a cash flow property? What is cash on cash or DSCR? Like some basic fundamental concepts, which isn't super complex. I mean, if you're half smart at all, you're going to understand these. The other thing though is network, like Gabe talked about, and I love how you say it compresses time. When I joined my first mastermind, I think 4 or 5 years ago, my life's exploded since then. Everything has changed because we naturally want to be we want to be like the people that we're around. So you can actually hack the system. You can hack your own biology, your own brain, your own psychology by being around people that you want to be like. You're going to naturally rise to the occasion. So
it's peer pressure. It's peer pressure. People always
it works.
Peer pressure always has like negative connotation.
No.
A bunch of dumb people doing stupid shit. Like, you don't want to be peer pressured by that. But there's a reason. Like, you want to get fit, get around fit people. You want to become 100%. Wealthy, get around wealthy people. I mean, it's
the herd mentality.
It works.
It's the herd mentality. The question is, what herd are you in? Right? Because if you're in a herd that's running off the cliff, well, you're going to run off a cliff. But if you're in the herd that zigs while everybody else zags or contrarian thinking, because buy and hold cash flow real estate isn't sexy. I mean, like, we own mobile home parks. I don't sit at a cocktail party and like, oh, I just closed on this 40 unit mobile home park. But generally, what is sexy is the time frame.
That's all I've ever heard you talk about at a cocktail party.
Yeah. Sexy.
Well, there's nothing.
That's right. I love mobile home. I do love them. We drive past a mobile home park and my daughter is like, look, Dad, a mobile home park. I'm like, yeah.
There's nothing sexy about you, Trav. I mean, let's be honest. We can just say it out loud.
I agree. You're echoing what my wife says. But okay, let's talk tactical. Let's talk tactical here. I have no money. Maybe I have a house. A lot of people own houses that they're sitting on a bunch of equity. The feds are lowering the rates. Maybe you can set up a home equity line of credit. I know I've borrowed against my owner, my primary residence so many times to use it as a down payment, and maybe with a seller carry deal, seller finance deal. That's technically I'm borrowing from myself, equity that I have. I can buy that property. I can force appreciate it because it's a commercial asset, drive the value up, do a refinance on maybe longer term debt, maybe pay the seller off, pay my home equity line of credit back. Like, Mitch, I think you had an $80,000 line of credit on your house that you've actually made millions and millions and millions on because it's the velocity of capital. You borrow against that line of credit. You buy a commercial asset, but what if that's one way to do it. Like, look at the equity that you have in your life. Maybe look at all the dumb shit that you never use, like the boats and the motorcycles and crap. Maybe you can exit that, sell that, use that for a down payment, coupled with private money or bank financing or seller financing. But what if you have nothing? What if you're like Gabe? He's living in the attic, eating off dirty dishes with his friends. I don't know. I love saying that.
Different times.
Let's go back.
I did live in an attic at one point for $100 a month. And yes, the dishes that my family used to eat off of were found in a free box on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I wasn't
eating
like
dirty dishes.
A dirty dish in the attic. Look, we could talk tactics. Fucking like Quasimodo up there.
Well, what if you don't have that? What if you're like Gabe? What if it's 2025 and you don't have a bunch of equity in a house that you're sitting in? What if, how do you connect the dots and buy an asset that you can hold and receive a monthly check from every month for the rest of your life? How do you do that for people that are listening?
Well, I'll just say it out loud. Look, if you don't have any knowledge of this game, you have no network of the game, you do not speak the language, then guess what? You need money, most likely, because you don't understand it. The person that understands the game, understands the language, is well connected, right? And has a really good deal, is the most valuable person at the table. And it doesn't matter how many dollars are in that person's pocket. It doesn't matter at all. Or a bank account. They can be sitting there with $0. They're liked, known, and trusted. They're well networked and they understand the language and they have a really good deal. Guess who's going to talk to them? Every single person at the table. And that could be people with multi-millions of dollars to invest or get into. You've got to start to understand the game. When I needed money, it was when it was early on. And Gabe, I know you have a different journey, but for me, it was always I needed money early on because that's what I depended on to go invest, whether it was $10,000 or $25,000 or $50,000. Today is different because I've elevated my knowledge and my network. I don't need as much money because I'm providing value to those other people. So I think it does start, for me at least, it does start with knowledge and network. And the next step is go find deals, go find awesome, amazing deals. If you're young and hungry and you're trustworthy and you have awesome deals, I would love to talk to you. And guess what? I didn't ask how much money you have. I don't care. So I think it starts with that, at least my perspective.
Well, I agree. I think to repeat that, if you are taking lots of action, you're underwriting lots of deals, you're understanding specific asset classes, you're getting in the right rooms, people have cash in bank accounts rotting. Now, get it. If you're going to partner with people that have money and you've got the deal, make damn sure that you know what you're talking about. Understand that you're buying the right asset that can generate good returns for your investors. You're minimizing the downside, but it takes knowledge, right? You've got to really understand what you're talking about. But you're right. If you've got the best deal, you are the most valuable person in the room. You could have a negative net worth. You could have a negative $1 million net worth, but you've got a great deal. People want to partner with you for sure. Although maybe you should understand why you have a negative $1 million net worth. Let's identify that first. But yeah.
Hey, one last thing I'll say before we wrap up this show, like, go get our book. Go get our book. You can buy it on Amazon. You can listen to it on Audible. You can go to our website and download for free. Like, we're not trying to make money off this book, but there's so many tactics in that book. Like, read the book.
It's very prescriptive. I agree. It's not like, hi, I'm Travis, and just buy a bunch of cash flow real estate. It's like, start with 0 to nothing, something to something more. Understand commercial assets, niche down on asset classes, build a team around you, get in the right rooms, get your mindset right. It is very step by step, which obviously I think my baby's the cutest, but I love our book because it is very prescriptive. It starts with having literally nothing, and we make no assumptions that you have zero equity, no cash in the bank. But then how do you scale a real estate portfolio, a cash flow real estate portfolio, and how do you retire?
And it makes no difference to us if you want to read the book or not. But if this subject interests you, like you want to be financially free and you want to gain time freedom through cash flow real estate, just read the damn book. It's free.
Mitch, there's a lot of words in the book, not enough pictures for you, but even Mitch can understand these concepts. So yeah.
Pretty sure I was a part of it.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
And Mitch, all right, guys, let's button it up. Good episode. Time freedom through cash flow real estate.
Good job, boys.
Later.